Hi, you mad people. Right, issue 44, Warhammer Imperium. It is more sector ruins. So, I'll get open. Let's get rid of that. I'll have a look at the plastic in a moment. I like the way it cheekily turns around and says 2 miniatures. I suppose if you're talking, in the strictest sense it is. Anyway, build and paint your terrain. The White Scars chapter, tutorial placing terrain. So, Theatre of War for our black section, Electia Battle Zone, Adeptus Ministorum Stronghold. So, information about the Adeptus Ministorum buildings on the Hive surface and a battle record for it. A small sector battle map here. We then have for our red section information on the White Scars, one of the first founding chapters, Loyalist Space Marines. Jagati Khan was their Primarch. And then we have a Reign of Blood information. This is how the sisters came into being, by the sounds of it, with Goj Van Dyer. Anyway, and the fall of Van Dyer and the decree passive. How to build your Factorum. So obviously I've built these previously, so in a previous video. If I remember, I will put a link in the description. And then obviously how to paint. Now I painted mine slightly differently to what is on in the magazine. I've gone for a grey, and I've literally I did a very quick and easy grey paint scheme, picking out only a few highlights, etc. But what I think I'll do in the next video is just go through picking out some of the extra detail that we can do for the buildings to make them look better and stand out on the battlefield. So I think I'll do that rather than showing you how to build them again. So there you go. Right, tutorial, placing terrain, line of fire, movement lanes, objective placement, terrain variety, symmetry and asymmetry. Excuse me. So we get a tutorial of how to do a balanced theme, or a thematic. Sorry, excuse me. Then we're getting into advanced rules, strategic reserves, placing units into strategic reserves and setting up strategic reserve units. And then we have a tutorial for strategic reserves. And then we have Initiate 05 mission. So battle for the Spires. The battle for Electia Prime rages on many fronts, from statue-lined boulevards to smoke-belch and Factorum districts and the towering Gothic residences of the city's nobility. The Imperium must retain control of these districts if the city is to be cleansed. Play this mission 3 times, changing the placement of the terrain to create a new battlefield each playthrough. After you have played each mission, turn to C, Theatre of War 04, and record the outcome. So, C, Theatre of War. So when you play those missions, you have an opportunity to record the outcomes here. These are district names and epic moments. It doesn't give you a lot of space to actually record outcomes, etc. But I mean, if you don't want to ruin your magazine, then you can either, if you've got a scanner, just scan it into your PC and print it out, or if you can pop to a shop which has a photocopier, just photocopy it a couple of times. Right, anyhow. Necron's Overlord. Accelerate the invasion. The Necron Overlord, frustrated by his forces' lack of progress, has decided to lead a series of strikes on key positions from blessed shrines to weapon storage facilities. The Necron commander hopes to overwhelm the Imperial defenders and push them into an ever-decreasing pocket ready to be destroyed. Imperium, Captain, running battles. With the Canoness and her Adeptus Sororitas sisters scattered throughout the Hive City, the Ultramarines Primaris Captain has taken command of the defences. His forces must rush from conflict to conflict, inspiring the defenders of Electia and preventing Imperial forces from being shepherded into a killing zone. So, Domination. Mission briefing. Conflict rages across Electia Prime's surface. The invading Necrons seek to overwhelm the Imperial forces before the Adeptus Sororitas can regather their strength and lead the Imperium on the offensive once more. Forces in play. There's a lot of forces in play in this one. So Necrons, we're doing our Overlord, Royal Warden, 10 Warriors, 5 Immortals, 3 Scorpec Destroyers, 1 Spider and 3 Scarab Swarms. And then Ultramarines, we are using the Captain, the Librarian, Tech Priest Dominus, 5 Intercessors, 10 Skitarii Rangers and 3 Aggressors. So we're using 2 of the pale grey battle mats side by side. It says here from issue 4 and 18. And then what it is saying is laying out your objective markers in this pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Lay out 2 battle mats as shown in the image below. Set up terrain as you see fit. Beginning with the defender, both players alternate deploying their units wholly within their respective deployment zones. So yeah, do that. That looks good. Let's have a quick look at the plastic. I mean, you've seen it before, but just as a refresher, bring you down. So this is the plastic. It's a 2019 sculpt. I think these ruins look great, but as I've said previously, I miss the modularity that the older style buildings, where it was separate panels that you glued together, and obviously bits of ceiling. I miss that. It would be nice to see Games Workshop bring that back, maybe as a limited, release for a couple of weeks, for those that wanted to buy it. But we've got 2 main large sections, 2 smaller sections, and a floor panel to go into the larger section here. I suppose there's nothing to stop you from cutting out the top ruined part so that you can add in additional height into for your ruins, etc. I may not build these straight away. I may wait for the next set, which I believe is coming in issue 48. And I might see if I can perhaps just swap a couple of bits around and see how that works out before building these. But I'll do a paint video just showing some of the extra detail that you can paint onto the items, onto the ruins. We'll do that. Alright, join me in a sec. Hey everyone. Right, welcome back to this second part of the video. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over a few things that you can do to bring out some extra detail in the ruins. So if you remember in the last video where we got one of these, we just brought it up to this kind of standard. It was dry brushed, and generally the metal areas were just picked out and I just added in a wash. But now what I'm going to do is just start detailing some of the other bits. So the first thing I'm going to start with is the Cog Mechanicus symbol. And I always recommend, if you're going to do symbols, that you always try and make sure that they are the same throughout your collection. So for example, my Cog Mechanicus symbols have on the skull, as you look at it, the right side is white, the left side is black, and then the right side of the cog is black and the right side is white. And I try and replicate that throughout all of my pieces which will have the Cog Mechanicus on it. So things like dreadnoughts will all have the Cog Mechanicus painted in the same way, because there's one on the back of those, and the Cog Mechanicus on my AdMech will all be painted the same way. It just says it all ties in nicely without looking too silly. So the Cog Mechanicus splits down the centre it kind of reminds me of that the aliens that were in the original Star Trek episode. Was it Let This Be My Last Battlefield, I think, or something like that, where the aliens had a half and half black and white face, but one alien had his black half on the right and the other alien had his black half on the left. It was obviously an allegory for racism, etc. You know, that was occurring at the time in America, and obviously still invades quite a bit of America and the UK actually, but hey, let's not get political. But yeah, and this symbol kind of reminds me of those aliens. So that's the first part of that done. If there are any others floating around, any other Cog Mechanicus, then, you know, do them as well. The other thing I'm going to do is there's a little skull in the door panel here. So I'm going to paint that so that I can then give it a wash with Seraphim Sepia, and then a dry brush with a little bit of Wraithbone. And for now, that's all I'm doing with the white. I will come back a bit later on. In actual fact, this is Ulthuan Grey that I'm using rather than white. As a base for my whites, I prefer Ulthuan Grey. I think it gives better coverage. Now, we then move on to the black. I'm just using Abaddon Black for that. And I'm going to use this for doing things like these cables, these ribbed cables. Obviously the half of the Cog Mechanicus, and I'm leaving the detail inside the Cog Mechanicus metallic. So all the way around the edge of the skull, I'm leaving that metallic, but I will pick out certain details. One of the other details I prefer to do is paint things like lamps a yellow colour, and then paint the cage around them with a metallic. I think it helps them to stand out better. And on this we have a lamp on the inside here that I'm going to add in the yellow. And then we have this broken lamp above the door, which just paint in like so. So, and what I'll do is I'll block those in properly. Now, another thing as well is that quite often on these types of doors, the turning wheel handle is often painted a bright colour. So it may be painted yellow, it may be painted red. I'm going to go with an orange. So we'll chuck in some Troll Slayer orange. And you can, once you've painted this, add in some chipping. So just add in some dots of black paint on the handle to suggest that it's worn, and the paint underneath the metal handle is coming through. Just like that. Obviously, I will come in with a wash. I'll use a brown wash on that rather than a black one. And one of the other things I'm going to do is some of this metal pipe work here that you can see. I don't have a copper colour, but I do have Rune Lord brass, and I'm going to use that to pick out that type of piping. Just to have some contrast. So all these pipes will get done. So this one here, there is some on the outside here around the Cog Mechanicus. So this one, this one, this one, and I will paint, there's these connectors here, I'm going to give those a brass coat. Just to help them stand out. And we've got some number plates on things like the door. So I'm going to paint those. We got similar ones here on like this boiler. And any of those that I can see dotted around elsewhere, I will give a thing to. We've got some more pipe work here that I will do, and these just there. So, and those coming off this air fan. And then I've got some what I would consider electrical ducting, which I will paint in a lead belcher silver colour. So what I've done is anything that I've perhaps looked at and it looks like it's flexible, I've considered it to be rubberized, and so I've painted it black. Some of the metal pipe work I've painted with the brass. Electrical ducting, you know, so for example coming up to this damaged control pad, I'm going to paint that silver. Brackets holding all the ducting and piping, I will paint silver or paint with lead belcher. And I will also just pick out perhaps these slides here on the door with the brass as well, just to give it again a little bit more interest on the door. So I'm going to crack on with that. Join me in a sec. So as you can see, I've done my pipe work, I've done most of the cabling. I've yet to just pop round and do all the bits and pieces with the lead belcher that I want to do. I've done the door. What I'm also going to do is just do this broken screen here in a green colour. There's another broken screen here, which I'll just put some green colour onto. And that's almost as far as I'm going to take it with regards to painting. We do have some valves here, gauges, which I will look to try and put the black dot into, and possibly do a green, yellow, red like pressure gauge type thing on them as well, just for extra detail. So I'm going to start with the coming in with the lead belcher that I'm going to do a lot of the cable clips with. And although I'm kind of being careful, I'm not too fussed, because it is only scenery. Because it's only scenery, I'm not actually too worried about overspill. On this sort of thing. So all of these cable clips here, I'm just going to get a lead belcher. And we've got some cable clips here on these bits. Now this flexible armoured cable here I painted lead belcher, but we've got some clips just there. this end we have these clips here. Don't forget that also some of these cables continue up above. So don't forget to go in and just get those cables. And join me again in a sec, and we're going to come in with the Null Oil and Agrax Earthshade now. So I'm going to start with Null Oil to go over all the metallic areas that I've done, and the cabling. Just basically doing it this way, you know. I'm using a fairly large brush that can absorb a reasonable amount onto it. So all the lead belcher is going to get Null Oil. Also going to go over with Null Oil over all the black cabling that I've done. The reason being is that it will just help shade any recessing around it or any potential overspill. Just like so. And I'm also going to use it to just go round and over the Cog Mechanicus. Like so. Just come down with these cables here. What I'm going to do now is use Agrax Earthshade on all my brass fittings that I did. So again, it's just going to be a case of going down like so. I'm going to put brown wash on these, which was the door locking mechanism. Right, so please accept my apologies. I thought I'd press record, I hadn't. What I've done is, obviously everything has dried now, which is good. And I've just gone in and done some detailing in the pressure gauges. I've added some details to, for example, the electrical switch here. I've just done the metallic silver work over the lamps. I've done a little bit of weathering on the handle. I've added in some details to some of the screens, and yeah, so that's I'm pretty much there really with regards to how far I'm taking it at the moment. So the last thing we're going to do is I'm just going to use some Necron Compound, which is a dry paint, and I'm going to just dry brush a few of the metal bits to just get a bit of silver going in places where I think it needs it. So and here just flick over this. And just do the same on the inside. Not going to go too mad. This, I think, the inside of the door will benefit from a good dry brush. I'm obviously trying to avoid the handle, but I want to get the hinges and other bits and pieces. And just a little bit in there. And that's it, that's all I'm going to do. So that's everything I wanted to do really, painting wise. This is what it looks like. We've got plenty of variation, you know, in colour to make it interesting. It's not going to be too stand-outish on the tabletop. Hopefully it'll blend in but still look good and won't detract from the miniatures themselves. We are still due another set, another half set of this, so what I will do is in that video I will just go over some weathering techniques that you can use to give a little bit more life to your scenery pieces, your ruined scenery pieces anyway. So join me in that video. Alright, take care, see you in a bit. Bye bye.